Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got some major breaking news coming out from Ukraine to share with you. We have a huge frontline report coming out from the eastern side of Ukraine that Russian forces are starting to give up their efforts on Pokrovsk, a key town on the eastern front in the Donetsk region that Ukraine is currently holding on to. And apparently they're transferring tens of thousands of troops over to the Kursk region of Russia, where Ukraine launched their incursion into Russian territory just last month. Okay, so this has been going on for about, 6 or 7 weeks now, where Ukraine has been operating in the Kursk region of Russia. And we just reported to you guys this morning that Ukraine yesterday opened up a second incursion into the Kursk region, and there's approximately upwards of 3,000 to 8,000 troops that could eventually become surrounded as Ukraine is trying to flank some of the Russian forces. As Russia has launched a counteroffensive just a few days ago, Ukraine has done the same thing. Okay, so Russia's having a lot of issues right now in the Kursk region trying to hold Ukraine back, and now we've got the second front opening up. So looks like Russia is definitely panicking right now, and this is why they are transferring tens of thousands of troops from the eastern side of Ukraine over to the Kursk region of Russia. Now, we also had a report that I showed you guys this morning in our update regarding the war between Russia and Ukraine, that Volodymyr Zelensky supposedly has information that the Russians have transferred at least 50 to 60,000 troops to the border of Kursk and I think the Bryansk region. So up near the Kursk region, there's lots of troops over there, lots of Russian troops that have been deployed. And what I understand here is that many of these troops came from the eastern side of Ukraine. So this shows that now Russia appears to be very serious about this incursion opening up into their country, and they're now starting to abandon their efforts, at least partially, on the eastern side of Ukraine. And then this also explains why we're hearing some successes from the Ukrainians pushing back on the Eastern Front. We've heard of some reports of like New York, a town in the eastern side of Ukraine, as Ukraine has been pushing back into that town and taking control over it. We've also heard some other reports near the Luhansk region as well. Luhansk is having some pushback as well from the Ukrainians. So definitely appears like Russia is starting to weaken on the Eastern Front. And we're definitely seeing some crazy information coming out in regards to this. So I've got several things to show you here today. First, let's jump on over here to mainstream news for a moment. This is on Euromaidan Press. We're not going to go over this whole report. I will cite it down below if you guys want to read the whole thing. It's a very long article that discusses many of the battlefield developments that have been happening on the Eastern Front and also inside the Kursk region for Ukraine. But it says here, frontline report, Russian forces finally sacrifice Pokrovsk offensive to defend Kursk. Ukraine has managed to alter battlefield dynamics with its Kursk incursion in just 6 weeks. Russia deploys forces from crucial Pokrovsk offensive. Okay, this is that map that we're looking at showing that Russia has transferred a lot of their troops from the Donetsk region on over to the Kursk region where this offensive is breaking out at, okay? And it says here, today there are a lot of important updates from Kursk direction. Here, in a critical turning point, Ukrainian forces finally managed to escalate the pressure in the Kursk Oblast to such an extent that the Russians were forced to sacrifice their Pokrovsk offensive and redeploy their most critical reserves to the north. By disrupting the biggest Russian offensive operation on which Russians staked everything, the Ukrainian Kursk offensive proved to be a strategic success. Okay, so this is what Euromaidan Press is reporting, is that it looks like the Kursk offensive is turning out to be widely successful, as it is now starting to do exactly what it was designed to do, was draw a lot of the attention away from the eastern side of Ukraine on over to the Kursk region, okay? So that way Ukraine can focus on taking back territory on the Eastern Front, as obviously this is more important to them as they need to try to regain some of their territory again. So it's definitely appears to be working. And now I'm going to jump over on X. I'm going to show you some other independent sources talking about the same exact thing. And again, we heard just this morning Volodymyr Zelensky saying that 50 to 60,000 troops were showing up to the Kursk offensive from the Russians, okay? So that shows that they're definitely very concerned about the Kursk offensive spreading. And it also shows that the current troops that are fighting against Ukraine right now, the Russians are not able to put a stop to Ukraine's offensive. Okay, so let me show you a few things here on X now. This is from Bliskovka. The number of Russians in the Kursk region has increased 3 to 4 times. Currently, there are between 30 and 45,000 Russian military. This was stated by the spokesperson for the OTU Seversk Vadim Minsk. We see that there are results. The enemy is trying to pull up forces to slow down our offensive, says Minsk. Okay, or Miznik, excuse me. So yeah, now we got more reports here too. This just came out today, just this morning, September 14, 2024, that Russia definitely is deploying tens of thousands of troops to this area, and they are preparing for a major battle here and trying to force Ukrainian soldiers out. Now, I did a report, I think it was yesterday also, that Vladimir Putin ordered his troops to basically push Ukraine out of the Kursk region by October 1st. Okay, so that's just like 2 weeks away. So this probably also explains why we're seeing tens of thousands of troops showing up here in the Kursk region. So now I want to show you this video from Nexta. It says, just in, Korn Group. A new operation begins in the Kursk region. A group of 8,000 Russian troops is threatened with encirclement. They have only 2 options: leave much more territory or enter the cauldron. Okay, so this is in regards to the Kursk region. We've been talking about the Glushkovky district, that Ukraine has opened up this second front in an attempt to split the Glushkovky district in half and potentially encircle a large amount of Russians that are currently fighting on the western side of Ukraine's incursion right now in the Kursk region. So I will show you guys a map here in just a minute if you're not too familiar with that. But pay attention to what they're talking about here because this definitely shows that Russia is in a dire situation in the Kursk region. So take a look at this. It's 2 minutes long.
Реакция в медиа последней недели показывает следующее, что то, что происходит в Курской области, для русского правительства очень-очень болезненно. Они вкладывают сумасшедший ресурс в медиа-войну, всякое ИПСО работает, всякие дурачки или продажные дурачки с украинской стороны им подпевают. Они неделю раздували зраду о том, что там они смогли все-таки вернуть несколько сел по Курской области, но в это время к ним подкрадывался большой пиздец. И вот этот пиздец вы сейчас видите на видео. Что происходит? То есть они залезли в котел, мы зашли в новом месте Курской области, и сейчас у русских выбор: либо вывести свою эту группировку и отдать нам еще пару тысяч квадратных километров, либо их группировка попадет в окружение, а это там 1008 человек, не меньше, если их можно назвать людьми, которым придется спасать, снабжать и нести сумасшедшие потери. То есть они могут сохранить людей и отдать нам кусок в несколько тысяч километров, либо им придется нести сумасшедшие потери для того, чтобы держаться в этом котле, который сейчас у них образовывается. Ну и с днем танкиста, так сказать, техника тевтонского гения двигается по их земле. У них должно рвать жопы просто в сумасшедшем темпе и с сумасшедшей силой. Всех поздравляю! И не слушайте, не читайте, отписывайтесь от продажных блогеров, особенно если это немецкие всякие псевдоэксперты или истерички типа Безуглой. Резюмируя. Военно-политическое руководство Украины, которое разыграло этот гамбит, просто достойно всяческой похвалы. Тот, кто это спланировал, красавчики. Те, кто это делает, красавчики. Всем остальным я пожелаю просто делать свою работу, а перестать разводить зраду в интернете.
Okay, so this was video footage coming out from the Kursk region, from what I understand, that shows all these heavy armor vehicles, tanks, heading over to the Kursk region with this new front that opened up. And he's talking a lot about these 8,000 Russian soldiers that could eventually be cut off here very soon. If Ukraine is able to push far enough into the Glushkovky district, which I'll show you on a map here in just a moment again, then this will effectively cut off upwards of 8,000 Russian troops that if they choose to not pull out and get out of this region and give up this territory, then, well, they could be suffering heavy casualties if they choose to fight against the Ukrainians and hold their ground in their positions. So now I've got this map here from Bozar Tiger fella. Our guys enter the Kursk near entered Kursk near Tetkino 2 now. Okay, I think he also means now they've entered, right? So this yellow over here is majority of where the operations are taking place with Ukraine right now. This purple area is the Glushkovky district that Ukraine is currently trying to take over. So there's lots of heavy fighting happening in this area on the western front of Ukraine's currently controlled territory, and the Russians have pushed down from Kornevo, taken control of Snogosty, the heavy fighting happening near Snogosty. They've opened up the land corridor here between the same river that separates the Glushkovky district from the north and the south. And the Russians can essentially pass through here temporarily until Ukraine pushes far enough to the same river in this area. But we can see these new fronts opening, okay? So we've got this front here near Vesiloy, I think is what the name of the town is, and Novi Put, okay? Ukraine is pushed into here, heavy fighting happening in this area. This is the second front that has been opened in the last 2 days. Now we've got these reports of another front potentially opening up here near Tyatkino. Okay, so what Ukraine is trying to do is push north and potentially either to Glushkovo over here. And if they cut this off, all these troops that are in here, the Russian troops, there's approximately upwards of 8,000 of them in this area that Ukraine could encircle, okay? And the only way for these troops to get out would be through their pontoon bridges if they have any constructed here, or back on out to its Kornevo if they can even get out through there, as Ukraine is fighting them in this area as well. So this is a big problem for Russia. And if Ukraine ends up taking this over, this is approximately 700 square kilometers of extra territory on top of the approximately maybe 1,300 square kilometers that they control right now. So the Kursk offensive is spreading very quickly now. It was starting to slow down there for several weeks, but now it's starting to pick up steam again. And this district is really close to falling here as Ukraine is making some major gains. So this is the reason why Russia is now concerned about this operation here in the Kursk region, as Ukraine is getting more and more successful. Although the Russians are deploying tens of thousands of troops to this area, Ukraine is still gaining territory, okay? They're still gaining over here. So obviously Russia appears to be very worried about this. So that's why I wanted to share this information with you guys. So this is definitely very big for Ukraine, considering that, according to this map, what we see is that the Russians are transferring lots of their troops and equipment over to the Kursk region. And again, this is exactly why Ukraine did this, to pull pressure off of the east, because obviously the Eastern Front has been slowly collapsing a little bit over time throughout this war. And now we've been hearing that the Russians are getting close to Pokrovsk. Well, now all of a sudden, this explains why the Russians have been halted also on the Eastern Front, because now they're transferring many of their troops over here to Kursk, because obviously this is an incursion into their country. So Russia's in a very sticky situation now, and they're going to have to try to fight hard to get Ukraine out of their territory, and this is also going to delay their offensive on the Eastern Front. And then also at the same time, in the next couple months, Ukraine by November is supposed to be holding negotiations with Russia to try to end this war. Okay, so this is getting very interesting over here, and this is exploding very quick in the Kursk offensive. So that's the latest we have coming out from the Eastern Front and from the Kursk region. So I hope you got something out of this, guys. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope y'all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.